The sky over Thalor Prime was no longer blue, it was a wall of gray, roaring and alive. The wind screamed through the empty metal streets, tearing off roof panels and throwing them into the air like paper. A single human ran through the storm, his coat whipping behind him, his face hidden under a cracked helmet. His name was Eli Vance, an engineer from a small exploration crew. But right now he was not an engineer, he was just a man trying to survive. The hurricane had come without warning. The colony's weather systems had failed hours ago. His ship was torn apart when the wind lifted it like a toy. He had run since dawn, through the mud and lightning, searching for any sign of shelter. The air burned his lungs with dust and salt, and every few minutes a loud crash shook the ground as towers collapsed. Eli's boots sank into the wet dirt as he stumbled down an old road. Broken signs lay half buried, their glowing letters flickering. Safe Zone 2. But the road ended in a deep crack. The storm had ripped the land apart. He stopped breathing hard, looking around through the flashing light. Everything was moving. The sky, the ground, even the air seemed alive and angry. He looked back once, saw the huge wall of water rising behind the storm clouds, and started running again. His comm device crackled with static. "Eli, do you copy?" a broken voice said, but then silence. He tried to answer, but the signal was dead. His team was gone. He was alone. Lightning struck close and the ground exploded beside him, throwing him into a ditch. Pain spread through his leg, but he pushed himself up, limping forward. Then through the heavy rain, his eyes caught something, metal shining under a layer of mud. It looked like a hatch. He crawled to it and brushed the dirt away. The steel door had strange marks on it, symbols not made by any machine he knew. But there was a small human insignia on one corner, an old Earth logo faded by time. He grabbed the handle and pulled. It didn't move. He tried again, using all his strength. The wind roared louder as if warning him not to continue. "Come on," he whispered, teeth clenched. With one final pull, the door opened with a loud metallic crack. Warm air rushed out, heavy with dust and a strange smell like burned stone. Eli didn't think twice. He climbed down the ladder and shut the door above him. The sound of the storm faded away, replaced by deep silence. He stood still for a moment, breathing heavily, letting his eyes adjust. The room was dark and cold. The air felt old, like it hadn't moved in years. He turned on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the dust. The bunker was small but built strong. The walls were made of thick steel, covered in strange carvings. Old human storage boxes lay in one corner, their labels unreadable. But what made him stop was the sound. Soft, broken breathing echoing through the dark hall. Eli froze. His light moved slowly across the floor, then stopped on something lying in the corner. At first, he thought it was a body. Then it moved. A voice came out of the shadows, weak and cold, almost like a whisper carried by wind. "My fast ends today." Eli's blood ran cold. His flashlight shook in his hand. The voice was not human. It had a deep echo, like it came from somewhere far away, somewhere older than the bunker itself. He took a careful step forward. "Who's there?" he said, his voice trembling. No answer, only the sound of slow breathing. He walked closer, his light sweeping across the wall until it landed on something that made him stop breathing. A creature sat against the far wall, chained by thick metal cuffs glowing faintly blue. Its skin was dark, almost black, but reflected the light like wet glass. Its eyes opened slowly, two pale orbs that shimmered with faint light. The creature looked thin, starving, but its presence filled the room with strange pressure, like the air itself was watching him. Eli took a step back, gripping a small knife from his belt.
"Stay where you are!"
he shouted. The creature didn't move. Instead, it tilted its head slightly and smiled weakly. "You are human," it said slowly, its voice broken by long silence. "I thought you were all gone." Eli didn't answer. His mind raced. How could something be alive down here? What did it mean by "my fast ends today"? The creature's eyes closed for a moment, as if remembering something painful. Then it whispered, "The storm above. It means the seal weakens. You opened the door, didn't you?" After all this time, Eli felt sweat on his neck. "I just needed shelter." "I didn't mean to." The creature opened its eyes again, their light now brighter. "You woke me," it said. "And now the hunger wakes too." Eli took another step back, his heart pounding. The wind outside began to howl again, shaking the bunker door above them. The lights flickered, and in that shaking darkness the creature's voice came again, calm and cold. "Run if you wish, human. But the storm brought you here for a reason." Eli stood frozen, his mind torn between fear and curiosity. The storm outside raged like a living beast, but inside the steel tomb, something older and stranger had just awakened, and deep down, Eli felt it. His life had just changed forever. The silence inside the bunker felt heavier than the storm above. Eli's flashlight beam shook as he aimed it toward the chained creature again. Its skin looked like dark glass with thin lines of blue light running beneath it, like veins of fire trapped under ice. The creature sat still, weak but alert, its eyes glowing faintly. Eli took a slow breath, his voice trembling. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The creature smiled slightly, though it looked painful. "I am waiting." Its voice sounded like wind echoing through deep caves, both soft and powerful. "You humans built this cage long ago." "You left me here to sleep," Eli frowned. "That's impossible. Humans haven't lived on Thalor Prime for over 100 years. The creature's glowing eyes dimmed. "Time means little to me. I guarded this world once when your kind called it home. But when the storms came and you fled, I stayed. I was told to wait. Until your return." Eli didn't move closer. His instincts screamed to leave, but something deeper, something human, made him stay. The creature looked close to death. Its chains were covered in dust and rust, the symbols glowing faintly as if feeding on old power. "What did you mean by your fast ends today?" Eli asked. The creature tilted its head. "I do not eat food like you do. I feed on emotion, hope, courage, fear. When humans left, I starved. I swore never to harm another living being. So I fasted until the day your kind returned." Eli's throat went dry. "You mean you've been down here for a century? Waiting for humans?" The creature gave a faint nod. "Yes, every storm above, every silence below. I felt them all. I waited in the dark, dreaming of the faces I once protected." Eli stepped closer, his flashlight revealing more carvings on the wall. Humans standing beside the same creature, fighting huge beasts under twin moons. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. The carvings looked ancient, yet the human armor in them was clearly modern Terran design. "You protected humans?" Eli asked softly. "I did," the creature said, its voice almost sad. "Long ago, when this world was new, the storms came every season, bringing monsters from the deep. Humans could not survive here alone. They made a pact with my kind. We would guard them, and in return they would give us what we needed most, the warmth of their spirit." Eli frowned. "That sounds like feeding." "Yes," the creature said quietly, but it was not pain. It was shared, a bond between protector and protected. It gave us strength and gave you safety, until— It paused, its face tightening. "Until some humans feared us. They thought we would turn against them. They built chains, prisons, and locked us away. I did not resist. I thought it was only for a short while, but no one came back." Eli's flashlight flickered, the battery almost dead. He stared at the strange being, unsure what to believe. "So you were left to die?" The creature's voice lowered. "Not to die, to forget. But hunger is cruel. It whispers in dreams. It shows faces, memories, voices of those you once protected. I thought I could silence it. I was wrong." Eli could feel the air around them change, warmer and heavier. He wasn't sure if it was fear or something else.
You're not planning to hurt me, are you?
The creature's eyes focused on him. "You are safe as long as you hold hope. I feed on that light. It reminds me of what I once was." Eli took a cautious step forward. "Then let me help you. Maybe I can release you from those chains." But the creature's voice grew sharp. "No, do not touch them." It hissed softly, and for the first time Eli saw fear in its eyes. "These chains do not only bind me, they bind what sleeps within me. Break them and you may wake something worse." The room trembled slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling as thunder cracked above. The creature looked up, its glowing eyes narrowing. "The storm grows. The world feels my pulse again. It remembers me," Eli's heart pounded. He looked toward the steel door. "What's happening outside?" "The storm is not just weather," the creature murmured. "It is memory. This world remembers pain, hunger, betrayal. You opened the door, it opened the wound." Eli swallowed hard, his mind racing. "Then tell me what I can do to stop it." The creature looked at him for a long moment, studying him deeply. "Find the beacon tower. Your people built it to seal me here. It feeds these chains. Destroy it and the storm will rest. Eli hesitated. But if I destroy it, what happens to you? The creature closed its eyes. Either I will finally be free, or the hunger will return. A loud roar shook the ground above. The old pipes rattled. The storm had become a monster clawing at the planet itself. Eli looked around the bunker one last time, then back at the creature. Its eyes glowed brighter now, like fading stars waiting for dawn. Go, human, it whispered. Your kind once called me Sereth. Tell them I kept my vow. Eli didn't know why, but those words hit something deep inside him. He grabbed his pack, turned toward the ladder, and climbed up. As the hatch opened, wind screamed in his face again, wild and furious. But this time he didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. And below in the darkness, Sereth's voice echoed softly through the metal halls. Run, little human, before the storm remembers you too. The storm had not calmed when Eli stepped back into the world above, but his mind was louder than the thunder. The rain stung like glass against his suit, and every flash of lightning painted the ruins in pale blue fire. He ran toward the old beacon tower Sereth had spoken of, but questions stormed inside him even faster than the wind outside. Who was Sereth really? A guardian? A monster? Or something in between? Something forgotten by both humans and time? Eli's boots splashed through mud as he crossed what used to be a colony square. The statues of the first settlers were cracked, their faces half-eaten by moss. He stopped when he noticed one statue's shape. It wasn't human. It looked like Sereth. Its eyes were carved with care, not fear. Beneath the stone was a metal plate that read, To our guardian Sereth who stood with us against the dark. Eli stared at the words, his breath fogging his visor. The story Sereth told was true. Humanity had not feared him at first, they had honored him. So what went wrong? A sudden wave of guilt washed through him. He had felt it even in the bunker. Sereth's hunger was not just for food. It was for connection, for purpose. He was not just trapped. He was forgotten. Eli turned toward the hills where the beacon's blue pulse cut faintly through the rain. Every few seconds it flashed like a heartbeat against the clouds. That was where he needed to go. As he moved through the storm, his flashlight caught a line of old warning signs stuck in the ground. Most had been knocked over by time, but one still stood. The letters were faded, but he could read them. Do not approach the beacon. Containment active. Containment. That word made his stomach twist. Sereth wasn't imprisoned for safety. He was sealed like a weapon. Eli pressed forward, climbing over fallen metal sheets, ducking beneath half-broken towers. Each gust of wind howled like an angry animal. He could hear the faint hum of the beacon now, a deep vibration beneath the ground that grew stronger as he got closer. The tower came into view, tall, black, and humming with old power. It was built from both human steel and alien crystal, the mix of both civilizations that once shared this place. Sparks of light rippled up its surface like veins of lightning. Eli stepped closer and touched the metal. It was warm, too warm. The beacon was alive. He connected his datapad to a broken terminal beside it. The screen flickered to life, displaying logs from the old colony. The first few were dull maintenance notes, but one caught his eye. Log 427, Guardian Program Termination. Sereth refuses to feed. The Council fears his restraint may break under hunger. Operation Beacon initiated. All Guardians sealed for indefinite stasis. Humanity will leave Thalor Prime. Eli's fingers froze. They hadn't imprisoned him because he was dangerous. They had done it because he wasn't. Because he refused to harm humans to survive. He scrolled further, reading the final entry. Log 428. If any human ever finds this message, know that Sereth kept his vow. He did not harm us. We betrayed him. Forgive us, Guardian. A lump formed in Eli's throat. He looked up at the storm, lightning flashing like veins across the clouds. The beacon's pulse grew faster, and he realized every beat of its light was feeding Sereth's chains. It was draining him, keeping him weak. Eli clenched his fists. No one deserves this, he whispered. He disconnected his datapad and started inspecting the tower's power nodes. The system was ancient, but he could still understand the wiring. A single overload could cut its signal permanently, but if he did that, Sereth would be free. And Eli had no idea what that freedom meant. As he worked, thunder rolled so loud it made the ground shake. He could feel vibrations through his boots like something deep below was moving. Then his radio crackled to life, static at first, then a voice. Eli, he froze. It was Sereth's voice, faint and echoing through the storm, as if the wind itself carried it. Do you see it now? Serath's voice asked. The beacon binds me, but it also holds back what lives beneath this world. My hunger was never for flesh, it was for light, the light that kept the darkness below asleep. Eli swallowed hard. You're saying if I destroy the beacon, you free me, Serath said quietly. But you also wake the deep. Eli looked up at the pulsing light again. Every flash seemed brighter, stronger. The storm screamed harder, tearing trees from the ground. He realized the beacon wasn't just a prison, it was a balance. It chained Serath but kept something worse contained. Then what am I supposed to do? Eli shouted into the wind. Choose, Serath said simply. To trust me or to trust those who betrayed me. The radio went silent. Eli stood under the tower, rain soaking through his suit. The beacon's light reflected in his eyes. He remembered the carving on the statue. Our guardian. The humans of that age had believed in Serath once. Maybe that faith was worth one more chance. He looked at the wires one last time, then drew his plasma cutter. If I'm wrong, he muttered, then the galaxy's in trouble. He cut through the first circuit. Sparks exploded around him, and the beacon's hum turned into a scream. Lightning struck the tower's top, splitting it open like an egg. A wave of energy surged through the ground, knocking Eli backward. For a moment, everything went white. When his vision cleared, the beacon's pulse was gone. The storm had stopped. Only silence remained. Eli pushed himself up, breathing hard, staring at the sky now calm and dark. Then he heard it, a voice inside his mind, soft and steady. Thank you, human. He looked around, but there was no one there. Only the faint echo of Serath's words drifting through the dying wind. And far away, in the bunker's direction, a blue light rose slowly into the air, like a soul finally waking from a long, hungry sleep. The silence that followed the storm was haunting. The wind had stopped, yet the air felt alive, vibrating with energy. Eli stood among the ruins, the beacon tower now nothing more than a twisted skeleton of metal and smoke. The storm clouds were breaking apart, letting thin rays of light touch the soaked ground for the first time in years. It should have felt peaceful. It didn't. Eli could still hear Serath's last words echoing in his mind. Thank you, human. That single line played over and over, both a relief and a warning. If Serath was free, what would he do now? Eli's eyes followed the trail of blue light in the distance, stretching upward like a ghostly pillar from the direction of the bunker. That was where Serath had been chained. He knew what he had to do, go back, find out the truth. He started walking, his boots squelching in the wet soil. The air smelled of ozone and burned metal. Strange shapes glowed faintly across the landscape, as if the planet itself was waking from a long dream. Broken drones sparked in the mud and fragments of the beacon's crystal pulsed weakly before fading away. As he moved, Eli noticed something new. Silence wasn't the same anymore. It was layered like whispers buried in the wind. When he stopped to listen, he thought he could hear faint voices, human, distant, as if echoing from the past. They sounded thankful and afraid. After an hour of walking, he reached the entrance of the bunker. The steel door, once half buried in mud, now stood wide open. Light poured out from within, soft, steady, and blue. Eli climbed down the ladder carefully. The air inside was warm now, humming softly like it was breathing. The carvings on the walls glowed faintly, the same color as Serath's eyes. The chains were broken, scattered on the ground like useless relics. Eli raised his flashlight, though he didn't need it anymore. The entire bunker pulsed with life. Serath, he called quietly. For a moment, there was no answer. Then the air shifted, and from the far end of the hall a shape stepped forward. Tall, calm, and glowing faintly like moonlight through fog. Serath looked stronger. His body no longer seemed thin and frail. The cracks in his skin had healed, and his eyes burned brighter, full of calm fire. But more than his body, his presence had changed. He no longer felt heavy or hungry, he felt complete. You came back, Serath said softly. His voice was smoother now, steady. Eli nodded. You said I had to choose. I destroyed the beacon. I hope I chose right. Serath's gaze softened. You did. The storm is gone because you trusted me. You gave this world a chance to breathe again. Eli crossed his arms. You said the beacon held something worse below the surface. If that's true, what happens now that it's gone? Serath lowered his eyes. It's awake, but weaker than before. The deep still stirs, but not with rage. My freedom calmed it. You see, it was never truly a creature, it was emotion. The pain and fear left behind when your kind abandoned this world. I was its vessel once, but your faith broke that bond. Eli stared at him. Faith? Yes, Serath said. You believed when your ancestors stopped believing. That hope fed me more than any energy ever could. It reminded me of why I fasted all those years. To protect humanity, not consume it. Eli felt a strange warmth rise in his chest. For the first time in days, he smiled faintly. So what happens now? You're free. The world's calm again. You could leave. Serath shook his head slowly. Freedom is not leaving, it is purpose. And I have found mine again. The old colonies will return one day, drawn by the silence, the peace. When they do, this world will need a guardian once more. Eli looked around at the glowing walls. And what about me? Serath tilted his head. You brought light back to this world. But your task isn't done, human. The beacon you destroyed was not the only one. There are others, on other colonies, each built to imprison one of my kind. Some were not as patient as I was. Eli's heart skipped a beat. You mean there are more like you? Yes, Serath said, his voice grave. Some still dream of vengeance. If they wake without guidance, they will see humanity not as partners but as prey. The thought made Eli's stomach twist. Then I need to stop them. Serath smiled faintly. Not stop, awaken. Remind them why they once stood beside humans. That is the deal I offer you, Eli Vance. Help me reach them. Help me bring balance before the others rise in anger. Eli hesitated. He was only an engineer, not a hero. But when he looked into Serath's eyes, he saw something that reminded him of humanity itself. Pain, guilt, and hope. Finally, Eli nodded. All right, I'll help you. But if any of them try to hurt people, Serath raised a hand gently, then I will stop them myself. A low hum filled the bunker. The carvings around them flared brighter for a moment before fading again. Serath turned his gaze toward the ceiling. The storm's silence won't last forever. The others will feel my awakening soon. You should rest while you can. Eli looked up at the flickering light, then back at Serath. And you? I will watch, Serath said quietly. I have done it for 100 years. One more night is nothing. Eli nodded and sat down beside the wall. The bunker was warm, the hum soothing. Outside, the world was reborn under a calm, shining sky. And deep in that silence, a bond formed, not between human and alien, but between two survivors who carried the same hope. The storm had ended. But the journey had just begun. The morning after the storm felt unreal. The air was clear, soft sunlight shone through the shattered sky, and for the first time since Eli had landed on Thalor Prime, he heard birds singing. It was strange. There hadn't been signs of life here before, yet now small creatures peeked out from cracks in trees that seemed to grow faster than nature allowed. The world was breathing again. Eli stood outside the bunker, watching the horizon. The planet looked reborn, yet the memory of Serath's words haunted him. There are others like me. That sentence echoed louder than the calm wind. He knew what it meant. Somewhere out there, other guardians slept in their prisons, still chained, still starving. And if even one of them woke angry instead of grateful, humanity could face a storm far worse than the one he'd just survived. He turned back toward the bunker. Serath was standing near the entrance, the faint blue glow of his body reflecting off the metal walls. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried centuries of memories. The beacon's silence spreads, Serath said quietly. Can you feel it? Eli nodded. Yeah, it feels like the world's lighter. Serath looked up at the sky. Peace always feels like that before change. Eli frowned. What kind of change? Serath didn't answer. He knelt, tracing his fingers along the dirt, leaving glowing marks that slowly formed into a pattern, a star map. Several dots pulsed across it. Here, he said, pointing at one of them, is Thalor Prime. But these others, these are worlds where the beacons still hum. The other guardians are trapped there. Eli crouched beside him, eyes wide. That's dozens of worlds. Yes, Serath replied. Some may already be stirring. The destruction of one beacon sends a ripple across the network. It tells them that one of us is free. Eli rubbed his forehead. So we just told a bunch of ancient alien beings that the locks are off. Serath's gaze turned distant. Not all will see freedom as hope. Some will see it as revenge. Eli looked at the glowing map again. You said they once protected humans like you did. Sarath nodded slowly. We did. But when your people betrayed us, some never forgave. A few lost their reason entirely. Hunger and loneliness twist the spirit, human. Even mine nearly broke. Eli stood up, determination rising in his chest. Then we fix this. You said I gave this world hope. Let's give it to the others, too. Sarath smiled faintly. Hope is not given, it's shared, but yes. Perhaps it's time we reminded them what it means. They packed what little Eli had left, his damaged datapad, a few rations, and the broken memory core from his ship. Sarath walked beside him, his steps leaving faint trails of light in the dirt. As they reached a high ridge, Eli spotted something he hadn't seen before, a massive crater where the beacon tower had stood. In the center, among twisted metal, something shimmered. Wait, he said, running down the slope. He reached the crater floor and brushed away the dust. There, half buried in the soil, was a metal box, sealed, ancient, but clearly human-made. He opened it carefully. Inside lay a small cube, glowing faintly with blue energy. When he touched it, it flickered to life, projecting a hologram of a human woman in an old uniform. If you're seeing this, the hologram said, you've destroyed the beacon, good. That means you've met Sarath, or one of his kind. Know this, not all guardians are lost. Some can still remember. If you find them, remind them of the oath we made. In light we stand together. The message ended. Eli stared at the cube, his throat tight. He looked up at Sarath. You were right. My people did believe in you once. Sarath touched the cube gently, his hand passing through the light. That was the promise I fasted to protect. Not power, not control, just faith between species. Eli clenched the cube in his fist. Then we'll bring it back. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Sarath's head snapped toward the horizon. Do you feel that? He asked. Eli felt it too. A low, distant vibration in the air, like a heartbeat echoing through the soil. It begins, Sarath murmured. Another beacon is breaking. Eli's pulse quickened. You mean someone else destroyed theirs? Sarath's eyes narrowed. No. Something did. The light in the sky dimmed slightly and a cold wind swept across the land. Sarath's form flickered faintly, as if something far away was pulling at his essence. What's happening to you? Eli asked. The others, they sense me. They're reaching out. Some call for help. Sarath's voice trembled, and for the first time Eli saw fear in him. And some are calling for blood. Eli looked toward the horizon where the faint shimmer of another beacon pulsed like a heartbeat of warning. He tightened the straps of his pack and looked up at Sarath. Then we better get moving. Sarath smiled weakly. You're a strange human, Eli Vance. Yeah, Eli said with a grin. I get that a lot. As they walked toward the glowing horizon, thunder rolled again, but this time it wasn't a storm. It was something awakening beneath distant skies. The first beacon was broken. The silence of Thalor Prime had ended. And the galaxy was beginning to remember. The horizon of Thalor Prime no longer shimmered with lightning, but with strange pulses of blue fire stretching across the night sky, waves that rolled outward like ripples in water. Eli and Sarath stood on a high plateau, the wind whispering through the canyons below. The storm was gone, yet the world didn't feel calm. It felt awake. Eli checked his datapad, which was struggling to keep up with the readings. These energy spikes, they're not from the beacon, right? Sarath shook his head slowly, his luminous skin flickering like a flame in the wind. No, the beacon's death freed more than me. It woke the planet's memory. This world is remembering what it was, before the humans fled, what it was. Eli asked, uneasy. Sarath's glowing eyes turned to the horizon, a cradle for guardians and humans alike, a place of peace. But after the betrayal, it became something else, a tomb. Eli frowned, rubbing his forehead. So all this light, it's not just weather or energy? It's emotion, Sarath said. You humans built machines that worked with our kind. They responded to emotion, to purpose. When hope faded, everything here went to sleep. Now that hope has returned, the planet stirs. Eli looked around. The ground beneath them shimmered faintly, as if something deep below was glowing through the rock. It was beautiful and terrifying, but before he could say more, the datapad beeped. A signal, distant, faint, but human. He froze. That can't be right. No human ships are supposed to be in this sector. Sarath tilted his head. Perhaps they came for what they felt. Eli activated the pad's receiver. A crackling voice came through the static. This is the Eden's Reach. We're detecting a planetary anomaly on Thalor Prime. Energy readings are off the charts. Any survivors respond. Eli blinked in disbelief. They're real, he whispered. Humans actually came back. Sarath smiled faintly. Then perhaps your people are ready to see what they abandoned. But the joy was short-lived. A deep rumble echoed through the mountains like thunder rising from underground. The blue lights around them flickered, shifting to a harsh red. Sarath's expression changed instantly. No, he said under his breath. It's too soon. What is it? Eli asked, alarmed. Sarath looked toward the north. Another beacon. It's failing, but not by choice. Something is breaking it from the inside. Eli's blood ran cold. Another guardian? Sarath's eyes dimmed. Not one of mine. Something corrupted. Something that forgot why we existed. The ground trembled violently. Rocks broke free from cliffs, crashing into the valley below. A gust of heat swept across them, carrying a low growl, not sound but vibration, as if the planet itself was speaking in pain. Sarath steadied himself. You must contact your people. Tell them to stay in orbit. Do not land, Eli spoke into the radio. Eden's Reach, do you copy? Stay in orbit. The ground isn't safe, static. Then the reply, copy that, but something's happening down here. The surface is glowing. We're picking up, wait, what the hell is that? The transmission cut off. Eli's heart pounded. Sarath, what's going on? Sarath looked at him, eyes burning brighter. The others, they feel me. One of them has woken, but not in peace. Its hunger returned before its memory. And it's angry. The air around them rippled. In the far distance, a red column of light shot into the sky, twisting, chaotic, alive. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and with every pulse the ground shook. Sarath closed his eyes. That is Calith. Once he was the strongest of us, the guardian of the southern colonies. He protected millions. But when your people left, he starved. His hunger turned him into something else. Eli stared at the red light. Then we have to stop him. Sarath's tone was quiet but firm. We can't stop him, not yet. We must reach him before he remembers too much. Once the hunger consumes his mind, nothing can bring him back. Eli grabbed his pack. Then what are we waiting for? Sarath turned toward the glow. You still don't understand what you're walking toward. Human. Calith doesn't see flesh and spirit anymore. He only sees fuel. Then he'll see me as something else, Eli said grimly. Sarath looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. You carry courage like your ancestors did. That might be enough. They began the long trek across the valley. The blue glow of the reborn world dimmed as the red light grew stronger. Shadows moved across the plains, shapes of creatures forming out of light and dust, ancient echoes of the Guardian's memories. Eli could feel the ground pulsing with energy, like the planet's heart was beating faster. Every now and then, Sarath would pause, press his palm to the earth and whisper words in a language older than stars. The light would soften for a moment, then surge again. As they climbed a ridge overlooking the southern desert, Eli stopped. In the distance, the source of the red light became clear, a colossal figure made of fire and smoke kneeling in a crater. Chains of molten energy hung from its arms, half broken, half burning. Its head turned slowly as if sensing them. Sarath's voice lowered to a whisper. Calith! Eli's heart pounded as the creature's voice rumbled through the sky, deep and broken. Who dares walk this world of liars? The ground shook violently, and for the first time Eli saw fear flash across Sarath's glowing face. The light of one guardian had risen, but another had awakened in rage. The red light rising from the southern desert painted the sky like a wound. Eli and Sarath stood at the ridge, their faces lit by its fire. The figure of Calith, the enraged guardian, rose higher with every pulse, his broken chains melting into rivers of molten light. The ground trembled like the heartbeat of a dying world. Eli could barely breathe. The air felt thick, charged with raw power. His human lungs were never meant for this kind of energy. Sarath placed a glowing hand on his shoulder. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. I'm already here, Eli replied, staring at the storm of fire. And if we don't stop him, no one else will be. Sarath's gaze hardened. Calith cannot be killed, only reminded. Reminded of what? Sarath looked at him with sorrow. Of who he once was. They began their descent toward the valley, the ground shivering beneath their steps. Every few seconds, Calith's roar echoed through the canyons, a sound that was not rage alone, but pain. betrayal and hunger woven together. As they neared the crater, Eli saw ruins scattered around Calith's feet, remains of an old human city. Towers broken in half, vehicles buried in sand, and faded murals on the walls showing humans and guardians standing side by side. Calith was destroying the very place that once worshipped him. Sarath raised a hand and his voice deepened with strange power. "Calith!" he shouted. His voice carried across the desert like thunder. "It's over. The humans have returned." Calith's head turned, molten eyes locking onto them. His voice rumbled like fire tearing through stone. "Returned? The thieves? The liars? You defend them again, Sarath?" Sarath stepped forward, his glow meeting the red fire with calm blue light. "They were wrong to leave us, but they did not know our pain." Calith's laugh shook the ground. "You still beg for them. You still starve for their hope." Sarath's expression didn't change. "I do not starve anymore." Eli watched as the two giants faced each other, one of calm light, one of burning fury. Energy waves rolled through the sand, crackling between them. Eli's datapad beeped suddenly. A signal, Eden's reach again. "Eli, we're entering orbit. Massive energy surge detected below you. What's happening?" He opened his mic. "Stay out of range. Do not fire on the surface. We have visuals of two entities. Are you saying they're sentient?" Eli's voice shook. "They're guardians. Don't interfere." Before he could say more, Calith raised his arm and hurled a wave of fire toward them. Sarath moved instantly, stepping in front of Eli, creating a barrier of light. The two forces collided, blue and red energy spinning into a glowing storm that turned the desert into glass. Eli shielded his eyes. "Sarath." "I can hold him," Sarath shouted through the roar. "But not for long." Eli's mind raced. He remembered the hologram message from the beacon, the phrase, "In light we stand together." He didn't know why, but those words felt alive inside him. He grabbed his datapad and spoke into the comms. "Eden's reach, I need you to broadcast something on all frequencies." "Broadcast what?" "Repeat these words, 'In light we stand together,' over and over." There was confusion on the other end, but seconds later, the air was filled with a new sound. Thousands of human voices echoing the ancient vow through the static. "In light, we stand together. In light, we stand together." The words spread across the land, carried by signal waves and the planet's wind. Calith froze. The fire in his eyes flickered. He looked around, confusion breaking through rage. Sarath's voice softened. "Hear them, brother. The light you protected never died. It only slept." The fire around Calith began to dim. His molten chains turned cold. He fell to one knee, smoke rising from his body. "The humans. Still remember?" Eli stepped forward, shaking but steady. "We remember now." Calith's massive head turned toward him. "You freed Sarath?" Eli nodded. "And I'll free the others, but only if they choose peace." For a long moment, Calith was silent. Then his voice came out softer, almost human. "Then perhaps, the storm can rest." The red glow faded. The ground stopped shaking. The wind turned gentle again. Calith's massive body slowly broke apart into glowing dust that drifted upward into the sky like burning stars. Sarath watched quietly.
"He's free now," he said.
"Not destroyed, just released." Eli looked up at the sky. The dust spread across the atmosphere, mixing with the light of dawn. It painted the horizon in streaks of red and gold. A voice came through the radio, steady, calm. "Eli, the planet's stabilizing. Energy readings dropping. What did you do?" Eli smiled faintly. "We just reminded someone who he was." As Eden's reach descended through the clouds, Sarath turned to him. "Your people will come now. They will rebuild. But remember this, hope must be fed or it starves like we once did." Eli nodded. "Then we'll keep it alive together." Sarath's form began to fade, his body turning to light. "You won't need me anymore." "Yes, we will," Eli said softly. "Every world needs its guardian." Sarath smiled. "Then I'll be watching." With that, his body dissolved into a beam of blue light that drifted upward to join the dawn. Eli stood alone on the quiet sand, the storm long gone. But as the wind brushed against him, it carried a whisper. Sarath's voice, calm and eternal. "My fast never truly ends. Human, it begins again, with hope." And as the first human ship landed on Thalor Prime in 100 years, the light of two species rose together once more.